Right, maybe just a few more questions before we end this session. Darwin wrote about different peoples. Do you say it like that, volkeren? But have those different peoples also wrote about Darwin, about him visiting them? Do we know anything about that? It's a question from Bedar.
Absolutely everybody has some monument to Darwin, some Darwin museums, Charles Darwin streets everywhere. Do we know of anybody writing about him?
No, we're trying to think now. It's a question. It's nice.
Maybe he was such a lovely guy that he didn't make a big impression. But he wasn't.
But there are no drawings or pictures, or you would imagine that,
no.
When...
That's a great question.
He was just... he was just another traveller, wasn't he? I mean, to the people who met him. I mean...
We tried so hard to find somebody who would come and say, well, my great-great-grandmother slept with Darwin. There was one moment of intense excitement when we were in harbour somewhere, and Sydney, and a lovely old girl came on board with two of her friends to give her courage, and I, a bit deaf, I thought she actually said my great-great-grandfather, Philip Diddley King, was slept in Darwin's cabin. And I thought she said my great-great-grandmother, but I didn't get the name, slept in Darwin's cabin with Darwin on the Beagle. So a great moment, but it wasn't true.
Yeah, Uruguay, we met that family, didn't we?
Yeah, we were looking for them, and we found people that, yes, he had come by, and because it ran in the family, because he became such a famous person that family members started remembering, yes, he was there, or he was with my great-great-grandfather, or he liked my great-great-grandmother very much.
Yes, in this family they had two young girls, an 18-year-old and a 16-year-old girl, who apparently were very beautiful. And they claimed that Darwin had spent so long in Uruguay because of...
But we have no details.
No.
And but we have had...
Although we did look quite similar, I thought, didn't you?
Yeah.
There was a family resemblance.
There might be a Darwin there.
But relatives.
Yeah, exactly.
But we have had now... That's the other thing we have had in Sydney, but also in Melbourne. A family came on board and said, well, my... this and this and this great was on the Beagle. That is what happens more often. That people are aware of the fact that yes, they were on this famous journey, and somehow in Australia this happened more than where else, and even in Australia we could find more artifacts that are related to Beagle journey, like the two beautiful drawings we found of Jemmy Button and Freya Basket, where you ask yourself, how on earth are these drawings getting into Australia? Yes, probably by all these family members that sailed on the Beagle and somehow settled here. And funnily enough, also Fitzroy was here. He was in New Zealand after the governor of New Zealand. So there is some sort of more mystic. Yes, we've seen Darwin, or we know about Darwin here in Australia than anywhere in the rest of the world.
You can see why, though. Just look at that.
Yeah.
When you've seen Australia, you might want
nice
to come back and settle here. Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. I haven't even looked today.
There's wonderful.
We just anchored.
Maybe just one last question from Ramon Say, a bit of a hypothetical question, but if we would again encounter a completely unvisited island somewhere in the ocean that we still haven't encountered yet, what would we do now, you think?
Look for the women.
We'd make a tremendous fuss, I'm afraid, instead of just keeping it quiet. But it does look like that often. In the first atoll, so it looked as if trees were growing straight from the horizon on the sea. That was wonderful. And then an island called Fatu Hiva in the Marquesas just suddenly appeared, this great cliff, and in the mist, and no sign of any human marks on it at all. And that's when you can feel that you're Darwin. A wonderful feeling.
But new islands are being formed. with volcanic eruptions, so maybe that's not a hypothetical question. Of course, the first thing is the scientists race on land to see what are the first animals and plants to settle there.
I know what the first plant is.
Spiders are very early, aren't they?
Spiders, yeah, no, the earliest plant. It's always a tomato.
Oh yes, of course it is.
Her work was a great thesis on the tomatoes of Galapagos, and she's just got her doctorate.
Well, let's finish here because we still have to have breakfast. We moeten nog ontbijten. Het is heel vroeg hier in Australië. Het is niet 7:15, maar 7:15 als ik me niet vergis in de huidige tijd. We zijn een half uurtje veranderd in tijd. Dat kan ook hier. Hartstikke bedankt allemaal voor je vragen. En als je nog meer vragen hebt, stel ze gewoon via Twitter aan @vpro_beagle. En dan zien we ze ook en dan proberen we ze te beantwoorden. Dus thanks Redmond, Sarah en Hans.
Thank you very much for looking at it.
Right.
So early in the morning.
Yes.
Without hot coffee.